The distress signal and humanity's response. The signal carved through the void of space, like a scream through silence. Deep in the monitoring station orbiting Mars, Lieutenant Jackson Cole straightened in his chair as the automated systems flagged an incoming transmission. It was unlike anything in the database, a frequency that twisted and pulsed with unmistakable urgency. Within minutes, the translation algorithms began their work, piecing together meaning from the alien words that had traveled across light years to reach human ears. Captain Elena Voss stood in the command center of the United Earth ship Retribution, her eyes fixed on the decoded message scrolling across the holographic display. The words were simple but devastating. The Caltharian people were dying. Their homeworld of Kelthra Prime burned under the assault of the Vraxian Dominion, a ruthless empire that saw weaker species as nothing more than resources to be harvested. The message spoke of cities reduced to ash, of children torn from their families, of a proud civilization brought to its knees in a matter of weeks. Elena's jaw tightened as she read the final lines. The Caltharians knew no one would come. They had sent their plea into the darkness without hope, a final act of defiance before extinction. They had no allies, no defense pacts, no reason to believe the universe cared about their survival. They were wrong. The command center fell silent as the crew absorbed the weight of the message. Elena looked around at her officers, seeing her own anger reflected in their faces. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chun spoke first, his voice carefully controlled. The Caltharian system is 42 light years from our current position. At maximum slip space velocity, we could reach them in 6 days. But, Commander, we are just one ship. Intelligence reports suggest the Vraxian fleet, numbers over 300 vessels. Elena turned to face her tactical officer. How many ships do we have within range that could join us? Chun worked his console rapidly. The destroyer Valiant is conducting patrol operations in the Kepler sector. The frigates Thunderhead and Resolute are finishing resupply at Station Apollo. The carrier Indomitable is 3 days out from completing her shakedown cruise. Admiral Zhao would need to approve any deployment. Before Elena could respond, the comm system chirped. The stern face of Admiral Patricia Zhao appeared on the main screen, her expression grave. Captain Voss, I have been briefed on the Caltharian situation. Fleet Command is convening an emergency session to discuss our response. You are ordered to stand by for further instructions. Elena took a deep breath. With respect, Admiral, we do not have time for committee meetings. Every hour we delay means more Caltharian deaths. The Vraxians are not going to pause their genocide while we debate proper diplomatic channels. Zhao's expression hardened. Captain, I understand your frustration, but we cannot simply rush into a conflict with an unknown power. We have no treaty obligations to the Caltharians. We have no intelligence on Vraxian capabilities. Starting a war with an alien empire could endanger Earth itself. Then we make it clear we are not starting a war. Elena replied, her voice steady. We are answering a distress call. That is what we do. That is what humanity has always done. We do not turn our backs on those who cry for help. The bridge crew remained silent, but Elena could feel their support like a physical presence behind her. She had commanded the Retribution for 3 years, and every person on this ship had volunteered because they believed in something greater than themselves. Zhao studied Elena for a long moment. If I authorize this mission, you understand you will be vastly outnumbered. The Vraxian Dominion has conquered 17 systems in the last decade. They are not going to surrender simply because humanity objects to their methods. Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Good. I prefer fighting enemies who underestimate us. 6 hours later, 4 human warships slipped into the churning tunnel of slip space, hurtling toward a distant star where an alien civilization fought its final battle. In the crew quarters of the Retribution, soldiers checked their weapons and armor with practiced efficiency. These were not the polished parade troops of peacetime militaries. They were veterans of the Titan Rebellion and the Martian Independence War. Men and women who understood that freedom often required blood to defend. Sergeant Maria Santos sat in the armory, methodically loading magazines for her squad. Around her, other Marines prepared in similar silence. They had all heard the Caltharian message. They had all seen the surveillance footage that intelligence had managed to capture of Vraxian, operations on other conquered worlds. The images of alien children being herded into cargo ships, of cities bound into submission, of entire populations enslaved or executed, had left no room for doubt about what humanity was facing. A young corporal named Davies approached, his face pale but determined. "Sergeant, do you think we can actually win this? We are going up against an entire fleet with 4 ships. Santos looked up from her work, meeting his eyes. "Kid, we are not trying to win. We are trying to make them regret ever hearing the name humanity. By the time we are done, every species in this galaxy will know that answering a human distress call means salvation, but sending one out means humans will come. And we do not come to negotiate." On the bridge, Alina studied the tactical data streaming in from long-range sensors. The Vraxian fleet was even larger than initial estimates had suggested. Over 400 warships surrounded Kelthera Prime, their weapons systematically destroying anything that moved on the surface. Orbital defense platforms that had stood for centuries were nothing but expanding clouds of debris. The Keltherian Navy, what little remained of it, fought with desperate courage, but was being methodically annihilated. Shun moved to stand beside her. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Keltherian Resistance. Patching it through now." The holographic display shimmered, revealing an alien figure. The Keltherian was humanoid in basic structure, but covered in fine scales that shifted through shades of blue and green. Its large eyes were filled with exhaustion and fading hope. Its voice, translated by the ship's eye, cracked with emotion. "Human vessel, this is Chancellor Varric of the Keltherian Council. We received your approach vector. Please, I beg you, turn back. The Vraxians are too powerful. You cannot save us, and we do not wish your deaths on our conscience as well." Elena leaned forward. "Chancellor Varric, this is Captain Elena Voss of the United Earthship Retribution. We did not travel 42 light years to turn back. We are coming to get you out. All of you." Varric's expression shifted from despair to confusion. "Captain Voss, you do not understand. There are still 2 million of my people alive on the surface and in the underground shelters. Even if you could somehow defeat the Vraxian fleet, you could not evacuate that many in your 4 ships. Elena's smile was cold as deep space. "Chancellor, we are not here to evacuate you. We are here to kill Vraxians until you do not need evacuating anymore. Prepare your people. Humanity has arrived, and we did not bring mercy. Humanity unleashes War the Human." Fleet dropped out of slip space at the edge of the Keltherian system like wolves emerging from fog. The Vraxian outer picket ships barely had time to register the new contacts before the Retribution opened fire. Humanity's weapons technology was younger than that of most spacefaring races. But what humans lacked in refinement, they compensated for with brutal efficiency and a complete willingness to embrace concepts other species found too dangerous. The first salvo of missiles streaked across the void, their drives burning at accelerations that would have crushed any organic pilot. These were not precision weapons designed to disable ships for later capture. They were thermonuclear warheads wrapped around tungsten penetrators, designed for one purpose: to punch through shields and armor and detonate inside enemy hulls. The 3 Vraxian destroyers on picket duty simply ceased to exist, replaced by brief new stars in the darkness. Aboard the Vraxian command dreadnought Endless Hunger, War leader Thraxus stared at the tactical display with mounting disbelief. 3 ships destroyed in the opening seconds. No demands for surrender. No warning shots. Just instant, overwhelming violence. His tactical officer's voice trembled as he made his report. War leader, the human ships are accelerating directly toward our main fleet. They are not attempting evasive maneuvers. Their approach is a straight-line attack vector. Thraxus felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest: uncertainty. The 4 human ships were tiny compared to his armada, but they moved with a predatory confidence that spoke of either supreme competence or suicidal madness. He was about to discover it was both. Deploy assault wings 3 through 7. Concentrate fire on the lead human vessel. We will crush these primitives and add their world to our conquests. The Vraxian fleet responded with practiced coordination. Launching over 200 fighters and gunships in a swarm meant to overwhelm any defense. It was a tactic that had broken dozens of species. The human response was unconventional. Instead of launching their own fighters, the destroyer Valiant broke formation and accelerated directly into the Vraxian swarm, its point defense network blazing to life. What the Vraxians discovered too late was that human point defense systems were not designed around the typical philosophy of firing at incoming threats. They were designed around the principle of creating an impenetrable wall of hypersonic projectiles through which nothing could survive. The Valiant's rotary cannons spun up to fire rates that seemed impossible. Spitting out depleted uranium rounds at such velocity, they turned space into a lethal cloud of metal. Vraxian fighters disintegrated by the dozens. Their shields, powerful enough to shrug off laser fire, meant nothing against physical projectiles, moving at relativistic speeds. Within 3 minutes, the entire assault wing was reduced to expanding clouds of gas and debris. The Valiant emerged from the carnage without a scratch, immediately turning to target the nearest Vraxian capital ship. On Kelthera Prime, Chancellor Varric and the remnants of his government watched the battle unfold on salvage displays in their underground shelter. They had expected to witness humanity's noble but futile sacrifice. Instead, they watched as human ships tore through Vraxian formations with a savagery that defied comprehension. Keltharian military analysts who had studied warfare for decades found themselves unable to explain what they were seeing. A young aide voiced what everyone was thinking. They fight like they have nothing to lose. Varric shook his head slowly. No, they fight like they have everything to protect. This is not desperation. This is Fury. The carrier Indomitable demonstrated humanity's other technological advantage: their Marines. While the space battle raged, dozens of assault pods launched from the Indomitable's bays, streaking toward the Vraxian troop carriers in low orbit. These ships held tens of thousands of Keltharian prisoners destined for slave markets across the Dominion. The Vraxians had considered them secure, protected by the fleet above. They had not accounted for human boarding tactics. The assault pods crashed into the carriers' hulls with explosive force, breaching directly into the interior corridors. What followed was not a battle, but a slaughter. Human Marines in powered armor moved through the ships like death itself, their weapons firing armor-piercing rounds that turned Vraxian soldiers into clouds of purple mist. Sergeant Santos led her squad with precision, born of decades of urban combat experience. Clearing compartments with brutal efficiency, the Vraxians had conquered through overwhelming numbers and calculated brutality. They had never faced an enemy that specialized in close-quarters combat, that trained specifically for fighting in confined spaces where their numerical advantage meant nothing. Within an hour, 5 transport ships were secured, their Keltharian prisoners freed, and their Vraxian crews either dead or surrendering. Back in the main engagement, Captain Voss watched her tactical display with cold satisfaction. The Vraxian fleet was beginning to fragment, their tight formations breaking apart as panic spread through their ranks. They had never encountered an enemy that refused to back down, that seemed to grow more aggressive with each exchange of fire. Chon's voice cut through the focused chaos of the bridge. "Captain, the Vraxian flagship is hailing us. Put it through." Thraxis's face appeared on the screen, his alien features twisted with rage and something that might have been fear. "Human captain, you have made a grave error. The Vraxian dominion numbers billions. We control hundreds of systems. If you continue this attack, you doom your entire species to annihilation." Elena's expression did not change. "War leader Thraxis, you sent your fleet to slaughter civilians and kidnap children. You believed yourselves safe because your victims were weak and alone. You were wrong on both counts. The Keltharians are not alone anymore. And we are not weak. We are human. And we do not negotiate with slavers." She cut the connection and turned to her weapons officer. "Target their flagship. Fire everything." The Retribution's main railgun spun up, its magnetic coils building to maximum charge. The weapon was a human innovation, considered primitive by most advanced species who preferred energy weapons. But there was nothing primitive about a 10-ton tungsten slug accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. When it struck the endless hunger shields, they simply collapsed. The projectile continued through the hull, through bulkheads and decks and armor plating, through the ship's reactor core, and out the other side. The Vraxian flagship broke apart in a cascading explosion that lit up the entire battlefield. The remaining Vraxian ships, their command structure destroyed and their casualties mounting impossibly high, began to retreat. They jumped to slip space in panic disorder, abandoning their ground forces and their mission. The human fleet did not pursue. They had made their point. As the last Vraxian ship fled the system, Elena opened a channel to the surface. "Chancellor Varric, this is Captain Voss. Your skies are clear. Send up your wounded. We have medical facilities standing by." There was a long pause before Varric responded, his voice thick with emotion he could not contain. "Captain Voss, my people owe you a debt we can never repay. You saved our civilization." Elena shook her head. "No, Chancellor. You saved yourselves by refusing to surrender. We just made sure the galaxy knows what happens when someone threatens those under humanity's protection. In the days that followed, word of the battle spread across known space faster than any ship could travel. Species that had suffered under Vraxian aggression spoke in hushed tones about the humans, these newcomers who had appeared from nowhere and shattered an empire's fleet in hours. The Galactic Council, which had stood by while the Vraxians conquered world after world, suddenly discovered urgency in addressing aggressive expansionism. But the message that resonated most strongly was not meant for allies or diplomats. It was broadcast on all frequencies, in every known language, sent to every corner of explored space. It was simple, direct, and carried the full weight of humanity's resolve. To all civilizations who would prey upon the weak, who would enslave the defenseless, who would commit genocide in the darkness of space, humanity is listening. We hear every distress call. We answer every cry for help. And when we arrive, we do not come with mercy. We come with war. And we will not stop until every slaver, every tyrant, every monster who hides in the dark is dragged into the light and destroyed. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Humanity has joined the galaxy, and the age of unopposed conquest is over. On the bridge of the Retribution, as her ship began the journey back to Earth, Elena Voss looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy had just learned an important lesson. Humans did not ask permission to do what was right. They did not wait for others to act. When someone called for help, humanity answered. And heaven help anyone who stood in their way. The end.